Have you ever had this experience? You've been in a staff meeting, you've been at a workshop, you've been at training. It's the first time you're getting to meet all the new people, and the coach, the presenter, suddenly has this great idea. Hey, everybody, we need to get up and play games. You need to stand up and introduce yourself. You need to tell everybody 5 fun facts about yourself and put you on the spot in a position where you don't feel comfortable. And if you're an introvert, this is very, very uncomfortable. If you're shy or you're new and you don't yet feel safe in that environment, it is quite an awful feeling. I know I felt that, and I've sat in meetings and just go, please don't do these games. Please don't make me stand up. Please just teach me what I've come here to learn. Please don't make me feel uncomfortable. I'm sure you've had that experience. So now let's flip it and put those students into our music room, and we suddenly start to saying, I need to get you to sing. You must sing. I'm asking, demanding, telling you that you need to stand up and sing a solo, sing this phrase out loud. And we do it without realizing it a lot of the time, and then wonder why our programs, our singing isn't developing. Hi, I'm Rachel Hardman, and this is Passionate About Music Education. And today I'm going to talk about strategies that you can use in your classrooms to help move from that I need to get them to sing to they love to sing. And if we really think about that language, and it also comes from our own experience as teachers, is we are expected to deliver an outcome. And usually that outcome will be assessments, grades, progress of the student. And of course, if you're doing a choir, a singing class, or you are doing any band, ensemble, orchestra, people want those performances. They want to see those big concerts, want progress, they want to, it's got to be better than last year. And there's so much expectation placed on music teachers. So of course you get this new group of students. It might be a year where your numbers have dropped down, or you're in a new program and you've got 10 kids instead of like 50 kids. And you see other people posting their choirs of 250, and you go, how am I ever going to do that? Well, first of all, you've got to take away all the guilt. You can only do what you can do with the students you have. You cannot keep comparing your program to other programs, because you are just going to set yourself up for disappointment and shame and blame. And that's not healthy, because it means that you'll stop enjoying teaching music, which is why you went into it in the first place, because you love music and you want to share that with students. So be careful of those expectations, and often those expectations are actually much harder from yourself than from other people. So that negative language, that demand that we feel for ourselves and from around us, from our admin maybe, ends up coming back into the classroom, where you go, we have to do this Christmas concert and I need you to get singing. I haven't got 10 months to nurture it, or I need you to do it. And that really doesn't help our students, and it doesn't help singing. And if you really talk to students who are actually quite keen to come and sing, you'll often find that they've had a negative experience about singing in the past. I often hear my middle school and high school students tell me stories about some form of shame or embarrassment where things have gone wrong, or somebody said something unkind to them when they've performed or sung. And we have to kind of unpick that fear and that negative mindset that somebody else has placed on them, and they believe it to be true. Our students are very savvy. How many talent shows are on the television at the moment? And we know as musicians that they're not necessarily good inspiration for our students. Of course, they see lots of talented people, but the way they're set up is that there's a lot of, oh, look at this person, aren't they rubbish? Haven't they made a silly voice sound? Haven't they done poorly? Or you haven't performed as well as you did last week. And it's a real shame. It's a real example of shame and blame. And I know that, having taught for nearly 25 years, I've seen children lose courage in singing over the last 10-15 years. And it is because they're seeing such a negative reaction to people singing on the television, on media. And it's such a shame, because singing is so wonderful. It's such a human gift. We carry our voice around with us all the time. But there is a vulnerability about singing. You can't hide behind the clarinet. If it squeaks, the clarinet, you can kind of look at the clarinet and go, well, that was Reed. It was the clarinet, it wasn't me. And everybody giggles. But if you squeak, or your voice cracks, you sing the wrong note, you sing out of tune because you're nervous, you don't breathe properly, and you can't hit that high note, There's no hiding with singing. It's so exposed and it's so raw. So we have to be really supportive of that with our students, because we are asking them to be vulnerable, and that takes courage. And the vulnerability is them expressing themselves so openly in front of their peers. And you will find, and in my experience, you'll find students up until about 10, 11, 12 don't really know about other people having opinions. They're kind of a little less savvy about it. But as soon as they get to 12, 14, 16, they are very aware of other people's opinions, generally because they felt that shame and blame and embarrassment when people have said something unkind about them. So the students are much more cagey about being vulnerable in front of others. So how do we go from getting our students to sing to them actually loving to sing in our classroom and enjoying the process? So I'm going to give you some action points today. Action point 1, get rid of the demand language that you're using in the classroom and that you're thinking in your head. I need to get them ready. I need to get them to sing 3 songs. I need to get them to do this. It is setting yourself up for a lose-lose situation in the classroom. If your goal is 3 pieces and they have only 2 ready, they only have 2 ready. That is fine. Parents will love the fact their child has sung 2 pieces and have performed. They will enjoy that. They're memory making opportunities. It's that, look how far they have come. My child is performing in this, and that joy. If your goal is to do 3 pieces, but you realistically only do 2, that's fine, because next time round you might be ready to do 4 pieces with that group because they've grown in confidence. Action point 2, I think, is really important for singing. I think it's important for all instruments, but especially singing. You need to take away all the fears that students feel in terms of singing. Generally, their biggest fear when they start singing in group, and especially if it's a small group and there's no hiding. If you have a big choir of 50, 100, 200 students, they can hide, they can sing very quietly because they're standing next to somebody confidently, or that confident singer you've got will be bringing your whole alto section going forward on pitching. If you've got a small choir of 10, 12 students because it's a new program or you're in a small school, then actually in that rehearsal space, there's no hiding. That everybody will hear everybody else and are very much aware of that. Had that last year when I changed school and my choir was 12 students. And there is no hiding, and they are embarrassed to sing in front of each other. They are aware of it. So what I do is I talk a lot about the psychology of singing and the psychology of performing and what it feels like. I talk about breath control, because they're very conscious about singing and squeaking or cracking notes and all of that kind of stuff. So we talk about how everybody can sing, but it is so much physical breath. And if you talk students through the process of taking a good breath in, will give you enough airflow to control the air, it will help you with pitching. If you talk about what performance work sounds like, how they're going to get up on the stage, how the acoustics of a room changes. So when they're rehearsing in a small space in your music room, they can hear each other. As soon as you put them up on the stage, they suddenly can't hear each other, and they have to really step into fear that they are singing. They can really hear themselves, but they can't hear anybody else. And then they go, can I hear it? Can anybody else hear me? Can everybody hear just me? It's a really frightening experience. And the more you take out all those unknowns and their fears and talk about it with them, the less scared they are, because you've explained it. They know what's coming, and it will give them confidence. Action point 3, sing. Sing with them. Doesn't matter if you're a great singer. Doesn't matter if you're a bad singer. They need to see progress. They want you to be human. They want you to laugh at your own mistakes. They want you to get it wrong. Because once they start seeing it, even you as a trained professional musician still has to go through that process of starting at scratch and building up your piece and learning the repertoire and developing, developing voice control, singing dynamics. They see that music is a lifelong skill. They see you modeling great progress. So don't ever be afraid to sing, and don't worry if you make mistakes, especially if you're like me and you're playing the piano and you're trying to read the music and trying to read the lyrics to them, and you're trying to concentrate on what they sound like. It's a lot to do at once as a musician. I can't tell you how many times I sung the wrong lyrics, and they just laugh, and I'm like, don't ever follow me on lyrics, guys. I'm doing 15 things. You sing the right lyrics and I'll catch you up. But there's some humour, some fun. You take out a lot of the fear. You're setting up win-win. Action point 4. Use warm-up exercises as a way to focus them into the rehearsal, but also to start developing their confidence over an octave, a pitch range, whatever warm-up exercises that you find are fun, but also help you get good sound, good technique that you can then refer back to in the rehearsal. So if you're teaching a piece of music, you go, oh, do you remember when we did all that diction work in our warm-up? That's where this applies. Or, oh, now we've done those warm-ups at the top end, it works really well for this piece. Action point 5. Now that technology is so brilliant and everything's so accessible, send students recordings of the pieces you're learning. Places like JW Pepper now have all the audio files that you can find on YouTube, and they'll have the music up with the lyrics and they'll hear the recording. It's fantastic. It's an amazing resource. And I always send those links to students because then they can hear what they're doing, but it also gives them an opportunity to practice at home. Because remember, a lot of our singing students aren't going to necessarily be great music readers. They're not going to sit down and have an access to a piano to work out their melody line. They're not necessarily going to be reading the pitches. They generally read the words, especially if it's a general choir class. Yes, of course we teach them shaping and phrasing, but it's not the same as when you learn the clarinet or the piano where you are reading the pitches and then applying it to an instrument. That's not the same for singing. So recordings are fantastic because they can have a way of practicing. The accompaniment will be there and it's great. If you don't find a good recording or another choir of the similar age, there's lots of YouTube recordings of other choirs singing these songs. If that's not available, then obviously you could record the backing track and the alto part. I know that's a lot of work, but in that beginning stage, it gives students confidence to practice outside of your room, which is what we really want them to do, because that's how they will grow in confidence and they will know the piece of music better when they come back to your rehearsal, which means your rehearsals will improve. So that there's a win-win doing that 10-15 minutes of admin, finding that recording and sending it on to students via email. Of course, that's much easier for secondary students because they do have emails. So if you don't have that, or you're an elementary music teacher, feel free to send it to parents and encourage them to do positive practice. Not, you must do this. Try to get them to not use that demand language. You must do this because the music teacher says. Action point 6 is to encourage students to have a voice in the program. And I think this is really important for middle and high school. And what I mean by that is allow them some opportunity to pick pieces and to have a say in the pieces that they're singing. So you might go, here's 5 songs on JW Pepper, go and have a listen, which are your favourite 2, and we'll do them. Or pick one that you like and I'll pick one. And having that ownership is really important because then they feel it's their choir, not your choir, their choir. And it should be their choir. It should be their choir because they're the ones who are going to stand up and sing in front of their peers in assemblies, in concerts. So it should be have a feeling of their choir or our choir, not your choir. And when I've done this with students and allowed them to have a voice, they love it so much. There's so much ownership. But you'll be surprised at how often they say, we never get a say in our education. We never get a say in anything. And the fact that you are giving them an opportunity to be involved in their learning and their choices, we don't realise how little say they get in their Monday to Friday in school. So giving students the opportunity to pick sometimes they're astonished that you're allowing them to do it, but it's really important because you're setting win-wins. I think action point 7 is really important. If you've got a choir and they're very timid and they're not wanting to sing too much and they've got all those nerves and the peer pressure, everything else, when you hear those moments where somebody has sung or somebody has tried or your little group has sung, praise. The power of praise, the positive mindset is huge. Look for those tiny moments in your rehearsal where you can praise. The more you do it, the more you keep saying, that was great. Oh my gosh, that was so much better than earlier. Well done. Oh wow, I could really hear you using your breath. Whatever it is, the students start to respond because who doesn't love praise? You know you love praise. You know it's so much nicer when somebody comes up to you and says, that was an amazing concert. That was an amazing lesson. Thanks so much. Rather than, yeah, you didn't do that very well. I think you should really think about it again. We all know that. So the more you can do that in your classroom with your choir, particularly in those early stages, will help your students develop confidence in singing and will help you build that relationship and get away from the I need to get you to sing, because you're looking for that opportunity to praise. And also talk about progress. It's easy to forget how much they've progressed. If you've gone from a choir, and often like the hardest thing that I find is going from trying to get them to sing, just start singing in harmony, particularly for students who have no experience of that. Singing in 2-3 parts and keeping that going is incredibly difficult, especially with a small choir. If you've got a choir of 100 and you've got the same students, it's so much easier because you've got power in numbers. But if you've only got 10, 12, 15 children, harmony singing is just so incredibly difficult to do. And any moment that they've made progress in that, you really should praise, because that gives them so much courage, because we often forget their progress. And it's easy because we're so busy all the time, and there's so much expectations on teachers and on you to deliver that we forget to just stand back and go, well, you couldn't do that in September, but you can now do it in November. Look at that. And the children go, yeah, you're right, miss. That's really helpful. Oh, wow, haven't we progressed? And that creates momentum. And action point 8 is probably the most important, but this one's for you, is be patient. It takes time to build a choir program, a band program, any music program, particularly if you're a new teacher, or if you are a new teacher in a school, or it's a completely brand new program you're setting up, or you've inherited a program that has been let go for a few years and you're having to come in and start again. Or a lot of teachers find that they go into school and they've had 4 or 5 music teachers every year before you. All of those add massive challenges that are beyond your control and out of your control. You didn't set the last 5 years of the school curriculum up. But what you are going in to do is to reinvigorate it and bring your enthusiasm, your love for music, your love for singing, love for instruments into the classroom. But you have to be patient. And I know me, I'm not the most patient person. And that's a really difficult skill to learn as a music teacher, because you want it to be amazing. And you know they can be amazing. You can see those moments where you go, oh, this is great. Why can't they just do it every rehearsal? And they can't, because the day is so packed that when they get to you, some days they might just be exhausted. You might be exhausted. There are those days where we have, we come into work and we're tired or we're ill. And trying to keep that enthusiasm is really hard. So don't be hard on yourself. Be patient. Sometimes it takes 1 or 2 years to build those programs before you start seeing the reward. So don't give up, even on those really bad days. Don't give up. Keep looking for the wins. Keep looking for when children are successful, but also when you're successful, because it makes a difference. You will make a difference to a student and to all your students that you teach. And I hope this has given you an idea of how mindset's really important, particularly with singing, because of that vulnerability we're asking our students to show in a classroom. Demand language, I'm going to get you to do it, I want you to do it, I need you to do it, you must do it. It won't help build good relationships, and we always want to have good relationships with our students, because that way they will stay with us throughout their school experience for the 4 or 5 years that they're in a secondary school. If you found this video useful, please feel free to like and subscribe to the channel, share with colleagues, and I will be back on here again soon with some more helpful advice on the wonderful joys of music education. And I look forward to seeing you again. I'm Rachel Hardman, and this is Passionate About Music Education.